Okay, here's a relatively advanced fingerstyle piece, still at this cusp of late intermediate to early advanced, I would say. But this is based on a few classic pieces, which I have amalgamated to give you all the skills that you need to be able to take on pieces such as Dust in the Wind, Freight Train, Baby's Coming Home, and also a lot of other fingerstyle pieces that I'm going to end up doing tutorials for myself, such as like Cannonball Rag, loads of Fleetwood Mac, loads of Beatles, all that kind of thing. But really the three that this is based on, Dust in the Wind, Freight Train, and Baby's Coming Home. That has a few key things. In the key of C major, we have a C major chord, or chords that are in the key of C major, with the C major scale, but played at the same time, and with the melody being kind of part of the fingerstyle pattern, depending on what strings you play. We got a Travis picking bass line, and we have, chords-wise, we have an A7 augmented chord, which is this. An augmented chord is any major chord with a sharpened fifth. So the fifth here is, of course, you know, where the power chord would be, but that's an E note. We have an E on the first string here. That would be an A augmented to an A major. And this is A7 augmented, straight out of Baby's Coming Home and a few other kind of Tommy Emmanuel, Mel Travis kind of fingerstyle pieces. We have the Don't Look Back in Anger chord, which is an E7 over G, which Noel Gallagher uses in the context of to find a fireplace, to take that look from off your face. This is an E7 chord over G sharp. There's the G sharp note. And all the other strings we're playing is actually on tab. This would be 4, 0, 4, 4. And we can also have the open D ringing out too. And that's instead of this chord that you might be playing. We're also using it here in a similar style as a descending pattern to a C7 chord, A augmented, D minor, G, and C. Other than that, I was just sticking to a C major chord, alternating the root note, which we've looked at earlier in my intermediate fingerstyle lessons. And there's much more support on the website for how to do this, including some advanced kind of Travis picking tutorials that we have already up on the site. Jarvis's fingerstyle course is fantastic as like a second part to this stuff, but we're going to be covering everything you'd need to know to get started with this, which is mostly the thing that really gives you the skill to tackle this sort of stuff, is being comfortable with a concept called the rudiments of fingerstyle. And this is where we're going to play a chord, or the root notes of a chord, alongside, in this case, the C major scale, and kind of alternate in this fashion, starting off at the same time, then go alternate. And then we can do alternate kind of Travis picking with the thumb. Like that. And we can even change chords, but still play. So I'm playing a G chord now, but I'm still going to play the G major scale. I could change to an A minor chord. Or an F chord. And this is how we can build up the skills to be able to tackle anything that we come across in a certain key. I have a full kind of mini course for how to do this in the key of G called Rudiments of Fingerstyle already. It's in the Fingerstyle playlist. But here we're doing it in C. And that should give you the skills to build up to being able to play this piece that I've composed to give you these skills. And also classic songs such as Dust in the Wind, Freight Train, Baby's Coming Home, and so much more beyond that. And if we just start off by playing the C major scale from the top G with the root note only of a C chord, I'm sure you can see how we can build a melody from this, and we can see that that root note is harmonically giving us the lowest note of the chord, and it's kind of telling us what the chord is. To build up the rudiments from there, we go alternate between the highest note of the scale and that root note. You could even go lower. But really we want to focus on those thinnest two strings because that's where the melody is most of the time, and then look to get an alternating bass note between string 5 and 6, starting us on this Travis picking idea, but still just go in scale order. So this is just quickly going through all of these so you see what we cover in this video. And then in the next video, we'll look at how to change chord and still play the C major scale over this, even though it's a G chord. And we can even go to A minor, and we can go to F, and still play notes from C major. With chords underneath. And Rudiments of Fingerstyle is the best way that I can get people to do that I've found in a very incremental way, no matter what your starting point actually is. Presumably, at this point, because we covered it a little while ago now, you're comfortable with doing the inside out pattern. Inside out with Travis picking. And also inside out, outside in, where this first finger goes from string 3, we go to the outside string 1 and back in. That's why it's called inside to the out and outside in. But a recap of that alongside all of this rudiments idea, they're really the two fundamental building blocks of advanced fingerstyle guitar that I've found that can be worked on very incrementally. So that's inside out and outside in, which you can also do with numerous chords. And we can add it with C major scale stuff. And again, it can be very incremental. If you struggle with adding the 3-note bass, just stick to a 2-note bass. If you struggle with hitting the thumb at the bottom, you know, there's always alternatives. And that's the other thing I've tried to communicate with the piece that I've written here and the blues piece. It's that you've always got an easier and harder variation of anything, and exploring both is really handy because you can make things more complicated and then simplify them, and kind of always be dipping in and out of those two. Make it more complex purposely to see how far you can push it in today's practice session, and then simplify it just so that you know how to simplify it so that you've got that easier option, but you're constantly going between the two. And that's how you can start to really push yourself to an advanced level on guitar in so many ways. But let's now just step you through the rudiments of C major scale with a C root note and then with an alternating root note. So we start off just needing the C root note and the little finger, but all we're actually going to play first of all is the C major scale, which involves the little finger and the first finger. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the time, keeping the third finger down. That's the starting point, and that's the concept that you can play a major scale while holding a root note down. But you don't even have to play, just start off with the melody note. We then play both together, just the C root note with 5 notes of the major scale and we're plucking together. We can even go lower than this. You're in control. You know the C major scale by now, we've covered it plenty. Push this as much or as little as you're able to do today, but be aware of where you can push it to and where you can back to make the most of today's practice session for you. The next step, once you can comfortably do them together, once per second, 60 BPM, maybe going all the way down to the open G note, is alternating. Melody first. 3rd finger playing string 1, middle finger playing string 2, still using that orthodox method of assigning a finger to a string. Whatever speed you're comfortable at, just keep it even. The next step after going alternate with 1 root note or bass note is going between 2 bass notes, which on a C would go between the root and the 3rd, because that's the next obvious note on the thickest 3 strings. If it was a G, for example, the G octave or G, that's the root to a 5th, is quite common. Again, root to the 5th on the A. An octave is quite common on the F, though you could do kind of a 4th interval there as well. That's what we're now doing. No matter what melody note we're playing, we're just going to plan it out and go alternate. Let's have a look at this. For example,